are now plugged into Hooked on Songs with Bruce and Tony Kong.
And we're live.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another fantastic episode of Hooked on Sonics. I am one of your two hosts, Bruce over here, and they're wearing some Ravens garb as per usual. The Tone Capone. What a fantastic show we got for you guys. We've got two really cool albums. One by Jakey Lee, the Red Dragon Cartel, self-titled debut album from I think it's 2013, and then the gentleman by the name of John Davis, who was with Superdrag and a few other bands. He released his new solo album called Jinx. Some music news and whatever else pops up. Before we get into any of that, Tone, the people want to know, how are you?
Good evening. I am okay. Today has been a bit of a rough day. You and I have discussed this. Um, with that being said, starting to finally calm down, starting to finally get to a place of some kind of
Zen?
peace. We are recording on a Monday night, obviously, just due to the fact that me and the wife are going to go see Soul Asylum tomorrow. Looking forward to that,
Mm-hmm.
especially off this new tour. I personally think the new album sounds great for a Soul Asylum album. I'm really a big fan of it right now. Kind of had that on spin a few times and really enjoying it. Looking forward to hearing some of the new stuff and some of the old stuff live at the show. Other than that, man, just same old, just back to doing this, and we'll get this show uploaded by tomorrow evening. I'll probably have it set up to upload for whatnot. Still got to get around to uploading everything to Spotify and stuff. I'm hoping I can have some time off to get it done. I've just had a lot. This is a very, very hectic week, and this past weekend has been an absolute nightmare with work. So I'm sure with everything going on your way, work hasn't exactly been a barrel of monkeys either. So
We're starting to slow down a little bit,
yeah, I'm hoping
just a
that
little.
we get there next month
Yeah.
because this is the last gasp where a lot of these guys want to take care of these sites, and they uh they um they just pump a lot of us on it sometime between October and November before we
Yep.
get into the holiday months, you know.
Yep. Well, while you've been stressing out about all that, what the heck have you been listening to this week?
This week, listen to some Heavy Temple, listen to some Soul Asylum, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Checked out your album, dig that.
Mm-hmm.
Checked out some of that Dictator stuff you sent me.
Oh,
Um,
that DFFD.
yeah.
That's so good.
And then what else was I listening to this week? Uh, I can't think of anything else right offhand. Maybe some Monster Magnet.
Okay.
So yeah, other than that, man, just same rotation for the most part. Looking forward to the concert tomorrow. Got
Mm-hmm.
invited to go to the Mushroom Head show on Thursday, but we're going to go see Venom on Thursday. So,
Okay. Cool.
yep. What you been listening to?
Well, I've actually been listening to that Soul Asylum album as well. Um, I've been I've been steadily listening to the singles that they've been dropping the last few months, and I really enjoy that album a lot.
I
Um,
I
it's
wouldn't
not
disagree.
it it's not as great as those two classic albums in the 90s, but it's still really good. Um, it's it's Soul Asylum.
I
It's
think it stands on its own as a solid
Yep,
album.
yep,
I'm not going to kid you. Am I going to tell you it's a 10? No, I'm not going to tell you it's 10. But kind of reliving some of that stuff because that late 90s, mid 90s to early 2000s alternative era, and we're going to talk a
yep,
lot about this here in the near future on the show here.
yeah.
That era produced some really cool bands that I digged at the time. I digged Eve 6, Soul Asylum, um, Gin Blossoms,
Hmm.
you know, but this was a very short time frame in my life. And
Yeah.
about that time we had grunge coming in. I was
Yep.
listening to a lot of thrash at that time, a lot of death metal, moving into really explored a lot of punk by that time. So those were really where I was at. And this stuff, to me, I always hated the fact that they would call alternative because a lot of it just seemed like good rock and roll, like the Spin Doctors and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I was a early adopter of the Spin Doctors. So did you ever dig those dudes?
Little Miss can't go wrong. Come on.
Little Miss can't be wrong. And
There is that
Princess,
actual.
Princess who adore you. Go ahead now, dude. Every time that shit comes on, I jam the shit out of that shit.
Mhm. Actually, that whole album, if I remember right, is pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's a
If I
solid
remember.
pocket full of kryptonite. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Let's see what else. I've been listening to the first album from Red Cross. They were a very influential band in the 80s. It really influenced the Melvins and Nirvana and all that, called Teen Babes from Monsanto. You might get that album one of these days. It's so good. And just a little other odds and ends stuff. So,
Okay.
yeah, man.
Dig it, dig it. I love to check out some of the what seems obscure to me stuff. Maybe not so obscure to you, but love it, love
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Cool, cool. What are you drinking tonight, man?
Well, I decided to pamper myself in my old school Aquaman cup that used to only be available through Pizza Hut in the early 80s.
Nice. I love those
And
old glasswares, man. I
yeah,
wish companies don't do that anymore.
I'm sorry, 1978. This is when this
Do
thing
you
came.
remember the old jelly
Uh-huh.
Flintstone
Uh-huh.
things and stuff and whatnot?
Oh yeah. Yep. I used to have some of those. Anyway, I am drinking 100 proof Captain Morgan and a splash of Coke.
And what are we giving that beverage?
We are giving that. I'm a huge Captain Morgan's fan. Whether it's 100 proof, basically any of their stuff is just absolute top notch for me. Give it a 5. Let's go 2 for
Nice.
me. And man, really smooth, especially for 100 proof.
Now, do you like Lady Bly, which is
I've
kind of like
not.
the kind of like the knockoff of that?
Yeah, I've seen Lady Bly, I've seen Admiral Nelson. I haven't picked those up.
What about
Usually
Sailor
my
Jerry?
Oh, I love Sailor Jerry.
I can't drink it. It gives me a headache.
It's a little spicy. It's a little extra spicy. But no, I enjoy Sailor Jerry a lot. So, but
Nice.
Captain Morgan's my favorite spiced rum.
I like Bacardi's spiced rum. They used to call it Oak Heart
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, but when it
Yep.
first came out. And I'm a big Bacardi fan when it comes to rum. Everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm when I'm drinking rum, I just haven't really sat down and drink rum in a long time.
Yeah.
Problem is, I crack open a bottle. The bottle's pretty much mine until the end
Yeah.
of the night. So,
Yeah. It's a good time. What are you drinking?
I'm actually going to have a beer tonight. I'm not supposed to be drinking any alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to have a beer tonight. I've got so many in this refrigerator, and the kids have left me a Columbus Brewing Company Blueberry Shimmer.
Ooh.
Now, I am not usually a fan of really fruity beers,
Mm-hmm.
especially ones that have like berry flavors and stuff in them. But I'm going to give this a shot. This is my first time having it. I took a sip of it earlier. We'll see how the second sip goes.
Okay. That looks like something I'd actually like to try.
It's 4.6.
Okay.
It's a fruited ale.
Does it actually taste like blueberry?
It's got some blueberry flavor to it
Okay.
off the back end. However, I don't like it.
Okay.
I do not like this one for a fruited ale. Um, this is very
Too fruity?
mm,
Another sip. Come on.
just a funky taste, man. Funky taste. Um, yeah, this is a no for me, dude.
Hmm.
This is a no. I'm gonna drink this one. I probably won't drink any more in the fridge. I'll offer them to people that may be interested in it. This is not. This is a no. Columbus used to make a better fruited ale, and it was their apricot ale when they first were around. And I would drink that all summer long, man. It was just a wonderful summer beer. This is just not that good to me, man. I think Sella actually liked this one, and I am kind of not a fan. It's just there's a weird, it's just a weird, like I can't even describe it. It's like it's almost too tart, and the blueberry off the back end doesn't seem to help it.
Okay.
So I'm going to give it is it completely undrinkable? Probably not.
But you won't finish that.
Oh, I'm going to finish it because I opened the damn beer and I want a beer. But I will not open a second one of these, not by any means. Um, it's a miss. This is a ugh, ugh, excuse me.
Welcome, new
Yeah,
listeners.
yeah. That is that's going to be a miss for me, dog.
Okay.
I can't. If I have to give it a rating, mouthfeel, it's not the worst thing I've ever drank. I'm gonna give it a 1.5.
Pretty bad.
It's
That's pretty
like
bad.
the worst I ever drank was Shiner Bock that was black or something like that, and that would get an absolute 0. To give this a 1.5, it's not much better. This is something I would never go to.
Okay.
Um, not my favorite.
Okay.
Columbus makes great ales. This
Hmm.
is a miss.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, it's not good. But proceed, good sir.
Proceed. Well, I guess let's get some news. Couple, kind of interesting just because we're going to be talking about him. Jakey Lee is on the road to recovery. He released a little bit more details about kind of what happened, and it wasn't just some random drive-by whatever. It was an attempted robbery. As of now, that's what he's saying. Um, that these guys were trying to steal his motorcycle
Wow.
or a motorcycle. He didn't specifically say his. They were a couple of motorcycle thieves, and there was an altercation. Jakey said that he thought they agreed that they were just going to part ways, and apparently they reneged on their part of the deal and began shooting. He said that's all he was comfortable with talking about right now, and to be continued. But he is at home now, uh, relaxing.
Good. Good.
Mhm.
It's a shame that has to happen, man. Society has become a turd of existence, in my opinion, because we are just on such decline.
Yep.
We've come so far from not robbing, stealing, kidnapping, hurting people. It's just an everyday thing. And I can remember, and I'm sure you can remember a time in your life where kidnappings weren't even common.
No, not really.
You know, I remember my mom sitting me down to watch a talk about the Adam Walsh story,
Oh yeah.
you know, and that's we were told never to run away in the grocery store or the
Hmm.
mall or anything like that. And that would begin the cycle of what would become.
Well, remember Poltergeist 2? Carol Ann almost got it in the mall. She went off screwing around. She
Yeah,
met up. She met up with Kane.
it's a real thing, man. And even more so now, these people have become so brazen that they'll get out of a van, pull up to you, and snatch you right off the street.
Yep.
Just snatch you right off the street. They'll grab you in a parking lot. They got all kind of tricks they'll do to get you out of your car
Mhm.
and then come up behind you and get you.
Dude, have you seen those monkeys? I think it's in like Malaysia or somewhere. They train these monkeys to steal kids.
Oh yeah. And
It's wild.
dude, there was something I saw today where someone was driving through, maybe some foreign land, and he said, these people, they throw an egg on your windshield, and your initial reaction is to throw on your wipers, and the egg smears all over
Hmm.
everything. You eventually need to get over. You get out of your car, and they're right behind you. Snatch you right up right then and there. So you got to be careful with that. So, you land with an egg on your shit, just drive directly to a police station. Don't even hit your wipers. Just go directly to a police station.
Yeah. Do not
Anytime
pass go.
anytime you feel unsafe, know where your local police station is and just get there. Drive until you get there.
Yep.
Do not get out of your car. You find something sitting on your windshield or something, a flyer, something underneath your handle. These people are so brazen nowadays. It's scary. It's very
Hmm.
scary.
Yep. Speaking of shitty, unsafe cities, Alex Van Halen was in New York City today, uh, signing copies of his new book. There is approximately, I think there is 6 minutes of the audio book that's, like a teaser that's available now on the Van Halen News Desk website. And I guess there's some instrumental tracks that are being released as part of that as well. So, um,
I wonder if they're just drum tracks from him, or maybe
no,
just him and Eddie jamming.
I bet it's him and Eddie jamming. I have not listened to it yet, but I don't
Maybe
think anyone
maybe
would care if
Wolfgang
it's
in the
just
mix.
drums. You, you never know.
Maybe
Depends on when they were recorded.
it'll be interesting to definitely hear some of that.
Yeah.
Let me know. Let me know if you get a line on that.
Yeah.
Did you
There is
see
so
did you see
much.
Wolfgang do Randy Rhodes at the Rock
Yeah,
and
the
Roll Hall of
Rock and Roll
Fame?
Hall of Fame. Let's talk about that.
That looked fucking sweet.
Yeah, unfortunately, because the Rock Hall loves to drag their feet on pretty much any decision, unless it's some pop bullshit. Ozzy was unable to perform because he's dealing with Parkinson's and everything else and his back issues. So he was just able to sit there and enjoy it. But how cool would that have been to see Ozzy uh, perform at his own induction ceremony? Wolfgang killed it. Zach Wild came in playing the solo for No More Tears. Whew, fire.
Well, that dude's always money.
Oh yeah.
Even when that dude was dealing with his drinking issues, that dude is always money, dude.
Yeah.
That's one of those guys that knows a guitar so well that he's just one of those great players, man.
Yep. Um, let's see. Foreigner got in as well. Way overdue. Um, and I'm not a huge Foreigner fan, but God, you got to respect their contributions to rock and roll. So,
Yeah, but there's no original members anymore.
well, yeah, well, there, Mick Foreigner, he was just too old and he couldn't perform. Peter Frampton finally got in, and all he could do was just sit there. He played a little bit, but he's dealing with health issues. Um, Cher got in as a solo artist. I don't, I don't get it.
Dude, I mean, I think the Rock and Roll Hall of
But
Fame
she's
is
an
just all
icon.
is all encompassing.
Yeah,
I mean, we know that there's hip hop artists, we know that there's country artists
yeah,
that are being brought in, and at the end of the day, I'm not so as opposed to it, but I understand why people feel jaded with it.
yeah. Let's see, and then there was something else that happened.
Well,
What was it, Tony?
one of the things I'd like to state in regards to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
Hmm.
is I don't mind visiting the place, but this induction shit, I don't know how they come up with this stuff, and it's one of my major issues with this. Iron Maiden still not inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we just lost Paul Di'Anno, their original singer.
Yep.
We did just announce that he had passed, and it's unfortunate because Iron Maiden has one of the most extensive catalogs in all of rock and metal.
Yep.
They have one of the most extensive catalogs. They have one of the most most iconic mascots. And they've been doing this since probably the late 70s, maybe as early as the late 60s. Those guys have been around,
Hmm.
you know. I would definitely say at least late 70s. And the fact of the matter is, they're still out there doing a great job.
Yeah,
They're running, if I remember correctly, they're running with three guitar players,
I think you're right.
three leads, and it's great to be able to see them do all of their catalog and
Mhm.
those guitar players play their parts.
Yep.
So I'm a big Iron Maiden fan. Our buddy Chuck from over at Beyond Neptune is an absolute Iron Maiden nut. I think the most of the fellas from Beyond Neptune are
Yeah.
at least two of them for sure that I know of.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen Maiden live?
I've never seen Maiden live,
Jesus,
but
man, you should.
Live After Death was the first tape, the first cassette tape that I ever got as a kid.
Live After Death was probably the first live album I ever bought
Yeah.
because I was so into Iron Maiden at the time and I wanted to hear what it sounded like live. And I finally got to see them in the early days of Suspect Earth
Hmm.
with Vinny Salvatore, our bass player at that time.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me. He took me out to Blossom. This beer's so gross. Um, uh, he took me out to Blossom and I got to see them we were sitting right beside the sound. So we were right in the middle looking at this, and it was freaking amazing. One of the best shows I had ever seen. They did their Somewhere Back in Time tour. So they did all kinds of things off of a long stretch of albums.
Hmm.
And then I finally got to take Kate to go see him a couple of years ago or a year ago.
Hmm.
We saw him here in Columbus, and they put on a hell of a show on the Senjutsu tour. Um, Kate got her an Iron Maiden shirt she wears every so often. I've got one I can't wear because it just looks like a balloon on me. And the material is really thin compared to a lot of concert shirts that I've picked up from some people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, man, my issue with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is there are bands that have contributed greatly to the rock and roll sound, have been
Hmm.
around for a number of years and done so many albums, but why are they not getting their due? You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
shame. What it took forever to get, I think, Judas Priest in. Did they finally get
Yeah.
in?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I'm 90% sure. Yes.
you know. And I
Yep.
think and I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, you want to know the truth. I think they shit on metal.
Well, look, Jimmy Buffett had to wait until he was dead before he got in.
That's a travesty in itself.
Yep.
That's like sitting here going, we're going to go ahead and give Pete Rose, rest in peace. We just found out
Mm.
about that. Pete Rose, into the Hall of Fame after he's dead. What's the point?
Yeah.
This dude
That would
betted. This dude
that would
betted
piss
on
me
his
off
own
more.
team. He betted on his own team because he knew we're that good. But then he got banned from the Hall of Fame,
Yep,
never
I
to be
get it.
reinstated. And we live in a day and age where everybody can pick up their phone and jump on FanDuel now.
Yep.
Get the fuck out of here, man. Whoever makes these rules, they can kiss my ass. And that goes for all of you.
All of you.
Sorry, I'm on a rant.
I love that. Yeah, that's all I got.
Oh, I would just like to congratulate my New York Yankees for making it into the World Series.
Ugh. Your New York Yankees.
41st appearance in the World Series, and they will be playing the Dodgers. And I got to be honest with you, I'm pumped. I'm pumped. Congratulations, Cleveland, for having a great season. You guys did great, but them Yanks are going to go. You
Next
know, I
year,
I get
Reds.
I get so much flack for all my sports teams. You know that, right?
You should.
I should, and that's
Y-
okay. I don't care.
Ugh.
Listen, Boston being my basketball team,
Crap.
the Celtics, New York being my baseball team, Baltimore being my football team,
The Trader Browns got it.
OSU being my college football team,
I get a lot of shit for that down here.
and Arkansas for being my college basketball team.
That
And then
makes
of course the St. Louis Blues for being my hockey team. Okay, so listen, you seem to have an issue with Arkansas. Let's have a discussion about that.
I just don't
We'll
get
move on
it.
to the
Why
reviews.
Arkansas?
So, do you remember there was a time where you and I hadn't talked to each other for a while, through middle school, and then after
Yeah.
high school, we kind of went and did our own thing. I
Yeah.
think you ended up with Stacy. Is that correct? Michelle? Who was she? Who's Carter's mom?
I don't remember. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't blame you either. I can't remember either, dude. I want to say she was red haired chick, obviously.
Yep, go ahead.
You obviously don't want to give her the time of day on the show, and that's fine. Anyways, but I was 94.
Yeah.
You remember my high school years? Later in my high school years, I
Yep.
worked at the Claremont Steakhouse.
Yep.
I had a host who was also one of the management team, and he would be up front bringing people in to seat them. And there was one TV in the whole place, unless it was football weekend, and we would have a TV in the back in the kitchen. Very rarely, though. However, the main TV sat out at the bar near the host stand, just in front of the host stand, and me and Jack would watch sports, check in on sports throughout the night because that's mainly what was on that TV. 94, Arkansas went into the college championship playoffs. And Jack and I like to bet a lot of money. We were stupid. Okay. I had $100 a game on Arkansas throughout the playoffs, and I won a lot of money. It was also the year that Bill Clinton became president.
All right.
All right. So yes. Anyways, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. But either way, they had won me a lot of money, and St. Louis Blues had won me a lot of money around that time as well. That's how those two teams became my teams. Now, one of the things I tell people is if you see me wearing Arkansas gear, because you've never seen me wear Arkansas gear until recently, I'm pulling in all my luck with this thing that was going on with my lungs and being in the
Yep.
hospital over the last, that you see me wearing Blues or Arkansas gear, I'm pulling in all my luck. So I've been blessed to say that I've seen my college basketball team win a championship. I'd love to see them win one more. I've seen my basketball team win a championship. I've seen the Yankees win a championship. I've seen Baltimore win a championship, and I've seen OSU win a championship. So I've been blessed that all my teams have won some kind of championship. I would just like personally, the Blues won the Stanley Cup a couple years ago. I would like to see Arkansas get one more win, and I will be content with my sports winnings for the rest of my life. Anything else is a bonus.
There you go.
So that's where I'm at, man. And that's what, I got a crazy sports journey. People think I'm nuts. I saw a chick wearing an Arkansas Razorback shirt today in Kroger's, and it was the highlight of my day, to be honest with you. I said, I love your shirt. She said, oh, thank you, little old lady. So, and then I saw a guy wearing a Stadium Mustard shirt, and I was like, hey, man, I love your shirt because I love Stadium Mustard. Hey, Stadium Mustard on a dog or a brat?
Honey, hush.
Get the fuck out of here. All right, man.
All right.
So that wraps up the news. Sorry, we're not loaded with a bunch of it right now. Our focus has been other things with things going on. However, sir, you ready to start these reviews?
I am. Really, let's see. Last week you went first, so it's my time.
All right, let's have you go first.
My time to shine. You gave me the Red Dragon Cartel, Jakey Lee's first project since Badlands. So I don't
Really? He hasn't done anything since Badlands?
No, he hadn't done anything since Badlands. I think Voodoo. What was that album called? Voodoo something. Voodoo Highway?
Maybe.
Was the last Badlands album, and he went fucking completely dark for years. I think it was close to like 20 years. He went dark. And then he just decided, hey, I'm starting this new thing. And just out of the blue. Let's see. The album came out in 2013. I don't really know too many of the original people that he recruited to be on the album. See, bass player was Ronnie Mancuso, drummer was Jonas Fairley, and his main vocalist Darren James Smith. I don't know any of those guys. I know that Anthony Esposito eventually took over bass duties for the second album, and he played with Ace Frehley. Um, he played with him when we went and seen him in over at the Newport for that
Okay.
Anomaly tour.
Yeah.
So Anthony's a really good dude and solid bass player. So um, Red Dragon Cartel actually just came out with two records. Both of them got a lot of critical success and everything like that. And Jakey went dark again. No rhyme or
So
reason.
let me say something in regards to that, man.
Yeah.
I kind of want to put Jake in the same category as like Vinnie Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
There was some good stuff that they did. They were part and integral to other bands.
Mm-hmm.
These guys were, as far as lead guitar players and their skill. However, there just seems to be a situation, and this goes for both of them, where they make an appearance. What they put out is still good. I mean, the stuff with Badlands was good. The
Freaking
stuff that he did with the
fantastic.
stuff that he did with Ozzy was phenomenal. And I think I don't know all the details behind it, and I'm not going to slight anybody because I wasn't there and part of those conversations and see. But I think that he got a raw deal when it came to Ozzy because like Ozzy was going through whatever it was he was going through
Mm-hmm.
as far as maybe rehabilitation or something like that at the time. And at that time, Jake did a lot of the writing for The Ultimate Sin.
Yep.
And I think to this day, I mean, aside from No More Tears, I think the production on The Ultimate Sin was just insane. It's such a clean sounding album. It's so fluid, just like No More Tears. The production on No More Tears is amazing. The
Mm-hmm.
production on Ultimate Sin is amazing. Other albums by comparison from Ozzy, not so much my favorite. Don't get me wrong, Diary of a Madman's classic, you know, Blizzard of Oz classic,
Yeah.
love those old Randy albums, obviously, but I don't think the production was as shining as
Yeah.
The Ultimate Sin and No More Tears. And that's just my opinion.
No, I agree with you, and I think No Rest for the Wicked. That was Zach's first album right after Ultimate Sin.
That's the one that's
I
got
think,
crazy babies on it, don't it?
yeah, I
Yeah.
love that album,
A
and
lot of people do, man, but
I think it was really well produced.
it's not my favorite. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
My favorites would obviously be No More
Jakey's.
Tears
Yeah,
and
Ultimate Sin.
Ultimate Sin, but later on, absolutely love Ozzy Osbourne, Randy Rhoads tribute live
Yeah,
thing. Love that album. Suicide Solution off that album is still
yeah.
one of the greatest live tracks to ever hear.
No, and I think Jakey, Bob Daisley, Rudy Sarzo, a lot of those guys. I know I'm blanking on a couple of guys too. They got absolutely shafted on songwriting credits, and they've been essentially, whitewashed from
Catalog.
Ozzy's history. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and those
Like
guys
you're
need
lucky
all
to
the credit
see
in the world.
you're lucky to see him perform Shot in the Dark,
Yeah,
even solo. Because he
yeah,
really focuses on a lot of other things. And I've never seen Ozzy do anything solo. I've always seen him with Sabbath.
yeah.
And the first time I seen him with Sabbath was a big, huge disappointment because like the third or fourth song in, he blew his voice. It was
Ah,
shot. It was right then and there at Polaris, Ozfest, something or other.
yeah.
First time they did Sabbath, and they come out and four songs in, he blew his voice, and it was a mess. Now the second time I would see Sabbath, it was a much better experience. Ozzy was, I think, in a little bit of better shape vocally,
Yeah.
but I've never seen Ozzy do solo stuff live
Yeah.
at all. I've never seen Diary of a Madman live. I've never seen any of the greats live. Mr. Crowley.
Hmm.
I'd love to, and it sounds like I'm not going to get to.
Right.
So
Yep. Well, let's get to this album here. The first track on this album was Deceived. Let's see, my notes on here is it's a great opener. The vocals sounded a little strained, um, and it took me a couple of listens to get used to it. Like if I only had one pass through this song, I would have skipped it. Those vocals were hard to take at first,
okay,
but as I started listening to it more, they really grew on me. So it's a really cool galloping riff, and the solo is just exactly perfect for this song. Um, I'm not gonna spout off on every solo. There was 10 tracks on this record. Um, Jakey Lee did not lose a step between Badlands and this. Didn't lose a step. Um, on one hand, you could say some of the some of the album sounded dated a little bit, and I'll get into that a little bit more, but it's exactly what you expect from Jakey Lee, and it wasn't so dated where it just sounded tired. So I'm
right.
not saying it in a negative way. So the next song is Shout It Out. I ended up giving this a B plus. The drums are really the standout thing here to me. It's a great riff, really cool chorus, and it sounded like a Motley Crue song. It sounded like a later age of Motley Crue. Like this could have fit on that Motley Crue album. This could have fit on Saints of Los Angeles for me. Um, it's a B plus. I'm not gonna skip it, but really that chorus is what saved it. And those drums are fucking cool. The drums are really cool on that. So B plus on that. Number 3, Feeder. This might be my favorite track on this album. Robin Zander from Cheap Trick did the vocals on this thing. Um, fucking it to me was another Motley type song. Robin's vocals are top notch. It's a perfect fit for this song. It opens up with a fantastic solo by Jakey. It's a great chorus, and then there's an extended solo to close it out towards the end. It's fan fucking tastic. A plus. Love this song, and I believe this is a single as well. So I think there was 2 or 3 singles off this, but Feeder really cool.
Now, one
Really,
question I'd like to ask you: we're talking about dating and stuff and
yeah.
whatnot. Do you think, being that the type of album that this is so far,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that any of these singles could have held their own on the radio in today's day and age, or would they have fit better in a certain era?
I think they could fit nothing mainstream, but like I could hear some of this stuff um on like satellite radio,
Yeah.
like stuff like
If
that.
you're listening to that, if that's that station on satellite,
Yeah,
it could be squeezed in and people
like
go,
Octane
this is a
or
new track from Red Dragon Cartel featuring Jakey
yeah,
Lee, and it would
yeah.
fit in that playlist.
Yeah, because it wasn't so dated where you're like, oh yeah, this sounds like Ultimate Sin. But there's the DNA's there.
Yeah.
You can't deny it. So, and it's like, okay, uh, you mentioned Vinnie Vincent earlier. Vinnie Vincent's trying to put out some like little video clips of him playing guitar. You just hear him play guitar, and it's the exact same shit from the 80s. The exact same shit.
You don't
So
feel
it's
like
like
there was, so with Vinny, you don't
no
feel like there's
progression.
no progression, no growth. Whereas
But
Jake
I mean,
feels like there's progression and growth.
song structure, yes, but his actual guitar playing, like his actual solos, No, like Angus Young. There's no
DNA.
progression there, but it's his DNA.
Yeah.
And you're not mad at him. I'm not going to say, oh, Angus doesn't sound like fucking Ingve. How dare he?
Yeah.
This sounds great. I mean, Jakey's style is great. And it's either, and again,
Like
if you
George
like,
Lynch. Like
yes,
George Lynch from Dokken.
yep. And I tell you what, there are so many similarities between Jakey's playing and Zach's playing. I
Yeah.
mean, there was a couple of instances in this album where I couldn't tell the difference. Like if you had Zach play right behind it, they're both really fucking good.
Yeah.
Really good. Let's see. The next one was a little bit of a ballad called Fall from the Sky. It's a ballad type song. It's very nice, melodic, a really nice melodic guitar solo. And that guitar solo is pretty much the saving grace of the song. It's kind of a skippable track. It wasn't horrible. Um, it just the solo was great. Like if this was just an instrumental, that'd been just fine. So I gave it a B. Let's see. Next up, we have Wasted with Paul Diano. Um, again, rest in peace, Paul. Great opening line.
Crazy how that worked out.
Yeah,
Jesus.
he comes in there. He says, "You rang," and then just goes right into the fucking song. That was cool as shit. Love the grit in Paul's voice. Really cool slide guitar. And again, that slide guitar is really prevalent in Badlands too. So love that shit. I gave this one another A. It's a great song.
Dude, I told you this album was not
Yeah,
bad, dude.
and I'm going to get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 6 was Slave. Fucking frantic riff. The drummer is right in step with Jake. Just fuck. Slave is an A plus for me. Um, just just fucking speedy as shit, and I loved it. Um, that might have been my second or third favorite song on that, just because it's so speedy. Um, Number 7, Big Mouth with Maria Brink. Do you know what band Maria was with?
I believe Maria Brink is in this moment.
You are
She's
correct.
she is if I remember correctly, she's Cindy Lou Who.
No, I thought that was Pretty Reckless.
Taylor Momsen
Yeah,
was Cindy Lou Who. Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Maria Brink is in this moment. Yeah, so
yeah,
I get them confused. I don't listen to
yeah.
either, so
No, I get it. Uh, Put in here, Maria's voice is an absolute force. It's a heavy, sludgy riff, really cool chorus. You sure got a big mouth for a small man. That was such this was such a great addition. I'm really glad that she was on this record. This is again a really good standout track. I gave this one an A plus as well.
nice.
Next was War Machine.
I
Uh,
believe that's one of my favorite tracks on the album.
and I can see why. So I put in here heavy, really heavy vocals were Ozzy like. And then it reminds me of NIB. That
Yeah,
riff, it starts with NIB, dun, 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 and then it changes to something else. I'm like, ooh, you're teetering there. You're teetering on NIB. Really solid. I gave it an A. I, it's a fucking, it's just a solid song. It's not a hit, but it's solid.
yeah.
Let's see. Number 9. This is probably the worst song on this album for me.
Oh, which
Uh,
one?
Redeem Me with Sass Jordan.
You know what? I don't think that one sat well with me either.
Yeah. The vocal, and this is where it comes in. The vocals were dated. Sass Jordan. It was so 80s. It felt cliche. It felt ugh.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I ended up just giving it a B. It it could have been a C,
It
but
could.
again,
What you're saying is it could have been skippable.
oh, it's definitely skippable.
Mhm.
But I mean, again, Jakey's guitar playing on this, it saves us. It saves that song. And then last but certainly not least, it was a short piano piece, instrumental, Exquisite Tenderness. It's a great closer, very beautiful piece. And I would actually love to hear an album of just this type of music from Jake. Just something different. It was
Yeah,
beautiful. I mean, again, it was a well crafted song.
I think Jake would do very well to sit down with some studio musicians
Hmm.
and sit down and write an instrumental album.
Well, Kip Winger, he actually writes a lot of classical stuff.
Yeah,
That would be an interesting collaboration.
I would love to see him sit down and do just an album of just instrumental stuff. I
Yeah.
would love to see him just kind of do his own thing.
Yep.
And and what worries me is, especially with him getting hemmed up and shot at 3 times, obviously, or
Hmm.
several times or whatever. Um, I've never seen Jake live.
Yeah.
I can't say that I would pass up the opportunity if there was an opportunity, because he was, to me, he was just like, I like the guy, man. I have no qualms with him as a guitar player, songwriter. I think he's responsible for one of the best Ozzy albums that ever fucking existed. Everybody knows that I feel very strongly about The Ultimate Sin,
Yes.
and I get a lot of flack for that. But Shot in the Dark, and every video that they did for that album was just so good. And Ozzy was in his hair day. He looked like Linda Ronstadt or something. He had that hairdo. But I just that album and tour and all the stuff that you saw that they were doing on that tour
Hmm.
with the stage setup was just, for me, it was
Yeah.
mind blowing as a young child.
Yeah. You know what this album suffers from is lack of exposure, and that's Jakey's fault.
Well, you can't blame him. I mean,
No,
you
I
blame
can
him.
blame him. He absolutely took himself out of the spotlight, and people often forget about Jakey because he's not in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's that guitar player for a couple of Ozzy albums. Okay, if Badlands, I don't. Uh,
Badlands was great. Dude, Badlands
Badlands
put
was
out a couple great
fantastic.
albums.
Yes, Badlands was fantastic. And I can't blame that solely on him because of the shit with their lead singer. But he went dark for years. And then you come out with two really good, because I listened to the other Red Dragon Cartel album. Um, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it was really good too. It's like, okay, keep the momentum. Hey, Jakey's back. Let's keep it up. Nope. He went dark again.
I'd love to carry a conversation with that dude.
Oh, yeah.
If we
Yeah,
could get him on the show, that'd be fucking great. This is a personal invite to Jake E. Lee.
that's right.
You see this review, we would love to sit down and talk with you on the show about anything you're open to talk about. We don't have to talk about anything ugly or disgusting. We would just love to have a conversation with you and talk to you about how we think you're such a wonderful guitar player
Yep,
and songwriter.
absolutely. So all in all, I think if he would have just kept going, if keep the wheels greased in the industry, because if you're not constantly out there, they'll forget about you again. And this album shouldn't be forgot about. Is it a perfect album for me? No. Is it a go-to album that I'm going to listen to all the time? No. But um, if it comes on, I'm going to listen to it. It's really good. I'm
I
going to
venture
give
to
it.
say, with as good as you sounding it is, it
Mhm.
may slip into your rotation every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not going to turn this thing down. I'm going to put this thing at a 9. I'll give it a 9.
Solid 9. Hell
I'll give it a
yeah.
9.
Dude, I'll tell you
Um,
what, you're right in line with me on that album. I just remember it being like, I'm not so fresh onto the listen of it as you are, but
yeah.
I just remember going, man, that was one of those albums that was just like,
This should
wow, man.
this should have got more love. This
Yeah,
should have absolutely got more love.
yeah. And I'm a Jakey Lee fan, dude. I just think
Mhm.
I mean, let's think about this. What would have happened in the time frame between Bark at the Moon and
Mhm.
Ultimate Sin if those albums didn't exist because Jakey Lee wasn't part of what was going on?
Yeah.
What would have happened to Ozzy during that time frame?
Yeah.
I think Ozzy could have potentially became.
Who else could have picked up Randy Rhodes's mantle?
Oh,
Because that's exactly what Jakey did. He picked up his mantle.
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying people said Randy who, but they were they had people had no problems accepting Jakey.
Bark at the Moon, solid
Yeah.
album, had solid
Yep.
hits on it.
Yep.
Ultimate Sin, probably one of the. I mean, I wonder where Ultimate Sin ranks in Ozzy's
Personal.
most sold albums.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've got to wonder where that rank. Like, if I had to say there was an Ozzy album that probably sold more than any other Ozzy album, I would go with No More Tears. But I wonder where Ultimate Sin sits in that catalog.
I would probably put it at number 4. No More Tears being number
Yeah,
1,
dude.
then
Diary and fucking
Diary.
and Blizzard.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I can't think of anything other than possibly No Rest for the Wicked that may even. I mean, if I had to say top five, that's probably the top five selling out Ozzy albums of all time.
Maybe. Osmosis didn't do bad either.
I didn't care for it as much.
I
Don't get me
like it.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
like, I soak an artist in. I soak as much as I can in, and eventually I go back and check out albums that I might have
Yep.
missed or whatever. And that's what happened with this Red Dragon Cartel thing. I had
Yeah.
seen around 2013 that Jakey Lee was in had a new project. I was watching live footage of the bands going out there. The bands were actually doing some of the fucking Ultimate Sin stuff live, and I thought, it sounds all right. But when they got into their stuff, I was just like, okay, yeah, I got to really check this out.
Mhm.
Check that album out, and I just remember it being like, I was like blown away, like, damn, man, this dude still got it.
Mhm.
Like, he's still got it. He's still writing great shit.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep. So yeah, I definitely gave it a solid 9.
solid 9, man. I would definitely be in line with you on that.
And I listened to, again, part of one of those criterias of what makes it a 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever. Do you listen to other stuff in the catalog? And I immediately listened to that other album. I was like, okay, yeah,
I'll be honest with you. I may have heard the other album once, but I haven't really gone back to it.
yeah.
I'll tell you, and before we go into my review, I just want to say something. I saw somebody post a video from the Newport Music Hall show of Queensryche the other night, and I got to see Queensryche kind of early on, maybe second album in with Todd Latour, the
Hmm.
new singer. I believe that's how his name is pronounced, Todd Latour or Todd
Hmm.
Latour or something like that. And he's great. And I will tell you, Queensryche is still like with this guy. I like since this guy has kind of joined, I think they're making solid albums. I like I like what I've heard so far. It sounds true to form of Queensryche. It sounds, I'm not looking for anything spectacularly new or different in that department. It's not like listening to the first 4 or 5 Metallica albums and all of a sudden we get into Load and Reload where it becomes, what is this shit? You know what I mean? There are albums like I didn't like Operation Mindcrime 2 nowhere near as much as
That
any
was
other
not
album.
good.
It was not good. Why did we do that? Why did we disgrace that whole like I get it. I get
Cash
it.
grab.
Cash grab. Exactly. So, you know, I want to return to that question. Do you think there's a single that could have made mainstream radio today on this album?
Big Mouth. Big Mouth.
Even though this was done back in 2013.
I think Big Mouth, because of the female vocals, they still sound fresh, and it's just a killer song. I think that would still, if that was released today, I think that would absolutely fucking kill.
And you gave this a solid 9.
Yeah.
All right. Red Dragon Cartel. Jake, if you see this, we would give the world just to have a conversation with you. We would just love to sit down and have a conversation with you. I'm sure you have some wonderful stories to tell if you'd be open to do that. Sorry, I'm just like, dude, I admire him for the 80s guitar playing, because when you think about 80s guitar playing, we think about the big bands, the guys that way overdid it. We got Motley Crue with, Mick Mars. You got Poison with CC DeVille. You got fucking Rat with Juan Crocier. Just
the list goes on and on.
The list goes on and on. But there were other bands that didn't quite see that kind of stardom that had great players in them too. Dokken will always remain one of my favorite bands. I think Don Dokken had one of the best voices in the 80s over many of those guys.
Yep.
And then, just other guitar players that I don't think really got their damn due, and Jakey Lee would be one of them. George Lynch, everybody knows Lynch and knows that he's great, but, aside from being in Dokken, Lynch Mob wasn't huge, but that first Lynch Mob album is fucking great. I got that wicked sensation. Do you remember that shit?
No.
Oh, dude, such a fucking phenomenal album. But there were just guys that slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
Okay. Michelangelo Badio. There's another one. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the greatest guitar players ever. He was the first to do the double neck thing. This guy is insane. I've turned Bruce onto him. He is so insane, but he was part of a band called Nitro, and Nitro probably didn't cross a lot of people's radars.
No.
And they were this if you took everything about hair metal in that day and just blew it way over the top out of proportion, that'd be Nitro.
Yep.
Jim Gillette and the boys, man, those dudes were they were all great players, but the problem is it was so over the top. Some people couldn't get into it. Now, I dug it, but I listened to a lot of crazy shit.
That's right.
Too. Same as Bruce. So with that being said, 9 on that. Thank you for your review on that, dude. I was really hoping you'd like that album.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you got to check out the second album. I'm going to have to go out and do that this week. I had John Davis's Jinx. Bruce actually, I think, got to sit down and talk with this guy, get his album signed and stuff and whatnot. And I'm going to start this review off by saying I'm not as familiar with this guy's catalog as Bruce could be. However, I'm going to give this album a really fair review because, to be honest with you, Bruce knows I don't go back and listen to an album over and over and over again. But because of the length of these songs, and I'm going to get into that, I was able to listen to a number of these a couple of times and, kind of really assess and give it a solid review. First thing I want to say is this. My notes on this say this: 90s alternative, late 90s, early 2000s, mid 90s on. This really kind of has that vibe and feel. Good rock and roll, straightforward, but it's kind of got an alternative feel for sure. Kind of reminds me of some Jim Blossoms, Eve 6, Soul Asylum, and stuff like that all come to mind if you're familiar with that era. But during that time frame, I didn't listen to a lot of those guys. I liked what I heard, from Jim Blossoms, Spin Doctors, and stuff like that. But it wasn't something that was a go-to for me. During that time, I was listening to a lot more thrash, death metal, punk, and stuff like that. With that being said, track number 1, The Future. I gave this a B. Reason being, it just didn't grab me as an opener. Like I didn't know what I was getting into with this album, to be honest with you. It just did not grab me as an opener. I said it's a good song. It's mellow. Got that 90s alternative vibe. Um, Not a bad song, not skippable, but it kind of didn't really get me pumped about the album, to be honest with you. And
Hmm.
you know, but it does kind of set the pace for what's to come. Track number 2, Please Be My Love. Um, I gave this, I'm going to give this a B plus. And the reason why I'm giving this a B plus is still this album hasn't grabbed me. However, I do like the lyrical content of this. Um, this could actually be a radio hit. I thought that this
Yeah.
could be a radio hit. Just because it's not an A plus for me doesn't mean that it couldn't be a radio hit,
Hmm.
but I do feel that that could be a radio hit. Track number 3, um, this is where things started to brighten up for me a little bit on this album. Take My Brains Out. I gave this an A. I really, this almost got a B, but there's a breakdown that happens in this that I absolutely dig, and I was like, okay, I can dig that a lot, and that became an A for me. Track number 3, Take My Brains Out. Track number 4, Wildfire Love. Um, this was a little more upbeat, but still mellow in the
Hmm.
in the alternative style category.
Hmm.
Um, I liked it. I actually gave it an A. Not a standout track for me,
Yeah.
but I couldn't see anything really wrong with the track. And I decided, is this one that I would skip or spin? I'm going to spin it, keep the
Hmm.
album rolling. Track number 5, Cold Advice. This one kind of was pretty cool. I really dug this one. I did end up giving this one an A. I like the way the song ended. I really
Yeah.
there was the way they ended the song on this was pretty cool, man. I dig it when things aren't your average BS in what you would expect.
Yeah.
Um, and still this 90s, mid 90s alternative thing still flows through this album. Um, One thing I want to touch base on is um, up to a point on this album, the vocals seem very, for each song, they may be slightly different, but for each song, through the duration of the song, it seems kind of monotone, you
Okay.
know. And we um we get that with songs like I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's say Gin Blossoms. You know, I don't want to take advice from fools. I just consider everything is cool
Hmm.
until I hear it from everything vocally until he goes, until I hear it from you. And then
Hmm.
the vocalists come in and back him up. That becomes a very kind of monotone style. I'm just sitting here writing a song and in my studio just to put something together. And it's it's just a lot of the vocal stuff is monotone across this album. Um, and the guy's got a great voice. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I just would love to hear other situations where he was kind of emphasizing certain words or extending notes in some way because I think the guy's got a great voice. Um, Track number 6, Already Drowned. Um, I love the riff. I remember really liking the riff on this one. And the lead out that I think there's a lead that takes the song out and or a lead just before the ending and then the song begins to close out. Um I gave this one an A too. I dug this song. Now keep in mind, by this time I've realized I've got to put myself in that 90s alternative mode to kind of really soak in what I'm trying to take in here.
Hmm.
Um Track number 7, and this is crazy. I wrote beside this Tom Petty. The song is called Free to Fall. I gave this an A, and I said this is definitely a radio track. Definitely a radio track. This could be a great single. However, there is some part in there where vocally it kind of gives a Tom Petty feel. And
Mm-hmm.
I really kind of dug that a lot. So that's why I gave that track an A. Track number 8, Indifferent Stars. This is where I noticed a major difference in the vocal across the album. And I really liked the dynamic of the vocals on this track.
Okay.
So, great song. Once again, I gave this one an A. Couldn't see anything wrong with it. Just a good jam. Um, Track number 9, In Between the Waves. I gave this one an A. This was upbeat. It was driving. Still had that mellow tone voice thing going on,
Mm-hmm.
but there was this driving factor underneath that really kind of pushed the whole song, and it was another A.
Yeah.
I can't give it a bad rating because I didn't see anything wrong with the song, and I did dig it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and give it a B because I don't have anything to get to ding it for. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
that's what comes across on this album, especially when I'm in this mind frame of this is a '90s alternative album. This is one of those things that you could have stuck in like a Soul Asylum album or a Spin Doctors album. You know what I mean? And the final track, I'm sorry, I gave this one an A as well. I really, really, really like this as a closer. Now, going back to that opener, I can't think of anything that I think would be a great opener other than In Between the Waves.
Mm.
Because of it driving, I think it could have got me a little bit pumped up for the album, and we could have settled in with another song that was a little more upbeat, and then bring us back down, and then bring us back in, and then close out the album with "I'm Sorry."
Yeah.
But I really did dig this album. It's got A's across the board. There's no A pluses. They're solid songs. I'm not, you know, super on fire because this just isn't my category.
Right.
I've grown up from this phase of music for me. Um, I still enjoy revisiting stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
However, this just isn't a go-to for me. With 10 songs, 2 being a B, and the rest being A's, I will say this. I want to see more or hear more from this
Mm-hmm.
because it's that interesting, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a possibility. I'm going to spin this album one more time through YouTube.
Okay.
There's a possibility I may buy this album at about the same time that I'm going to buy the new Soul Asylum album. Just because it'll be nice to add those to my alternative collection of digital music.
Mm-hmm.
However, solid album. Because it's not my go-to, I got some other things I want to say here. I wrote down. This is a real feelings album. It's somewhat depressing at times, but life's messed up until you show up. That seems to be a reoccurring theme on the album. Hey, things are it's a bit of a gloomy day, but hey, girl, thanks for showing up. It's good to have you here. It's got kind of got that
Yeah.
vibe on a few songs. And it's cool. It's cool. And a lot of that stuff was really during that time frame. I mean, Spin Doctors, Two Princes, guy and a girl, um, uh, uh, there's so many songs, Until I Hear It From You, Gem
Mm-hmm.
Blossoms and stuff like that, Eve 6, put my heart in a tender, but
Yeah.
just that kind of stuff. It's that vibe, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Vocals were very monotone through a lot of the album felt somewhat vulnerable, but safe. And those would be my closing notes on that. With that being said, I am actually going to give this album an 8.75.
Nice.
Um, the ding being that it just didn't grab me in the beginning, man, and it took a bit to warm up. The vocals, I really want to see, I really want to hear more of that dude because I think he's got an amazing voice,
Mm-hmm.
and if he's the one writing these songs, he's doing a great job songwriting. I definitely want to check out more of his stuff. I'd like to check out some of the other projects he's worked on, and you know me, if I give it an 8, I'm going to check out more. 8.75, solid album. That's my review.
There you go. Um, just kind of my 2 cents on it. Um, a couple little things I'd put on it. Oh, there are some songs on here that aren't long enough. Um, it's almost, I think there was one song that was like 2 minutes long. It's like, man, that could have been fleshed out a little bit longer.
2.5
That,
minutes.
yeah.
There's not a song on this album that it goes past, I think, 4 minutes and 9 seconds.
And that's fine. For me, that's fine. But to me, it really should be at least 3 minutes to get a good vibe of a song,
I like
a
songs
full
sitting.
vibe.
I like songs sitting at about 3.5, 4 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm okay
Yeah.
with that,
Something like that. Um,
especially if it's going for the radio.
yeah. I think I'm Sorry should have been a single, and maybe he will end up putting that as a single. I really love that song.
I think it's a great song. If I
Yeah.
had to say my favorite song on the album, I'm going to give it up to that, dude.
I, it's a cross between Take My Brains Out or I'm Sorry is my favorite songs on this album. Um, I really look, there's no secret. Um, John has a huge catalog between his original band Super Drag, who had some success in the 90s, the Lisa Memory, which, another alternative type band, a little harder edged. Um, and then he's got the Rectangle Shades, another band, and then his solo stuff. And he's constantly churning out. I'm telling you, he is the most creative motherfucker I have ever met personally in my life.
That's awesome.
So I was, do I think that this album is his best album that he's ever made? No. But I like a lot of his shit, and this is right in there. This is an really solid album for me too. Again, I put it right about where you're at. About a 9, 8.75, 9. Um,
Dude, the only reason I really
and I
dig this
like,
album for that style is
yeah,
because that first track, those first two tracks, they didn't really grab me, man. And I think track placement is key
mhm.
to a lot of albums. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? I really do like "Please Be My Love." I really like that.
I think it could be a radio song. I
Yeah,
said that.
absolutely. Um, Heavy to me, I felt there was a lot of Beatles influence in this.
Okay.
Um, and so I really enjoyed it. So
Do you see where I'm coming from
no,
with like the
absolutely.
90s alternative thing?
Absolutely. It's definitely in that feel, in that pocket. Um, I think I told you when I gave you the album, to me, it kind of reminds me of if Foo Fighters and Soul Asylum had a baby.
Yeah, I think you did tell me that. And I'll tell you, here's the thing. When you run across something like this back in that genre, or somebody's
Hmm.
doing something current in that style of genre,
Hmm.
it's like shaking hands with an old friend.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So pretty cool, man. I look forward to listening to some more. I did dig the album. You're same place as I am. I mean, if 90s alternative, obviously some Beatles influence, you got off of that. If
Hmm.
that's your thing, then this album's going to be right up your alley.
Yeah.
If you're into stuff like Gen Blossoms and stuff like that, this album, and I don't mean to compare because maybe they're not going for that, right? But it's what it feels like to me. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Cool. Cool. So with that
Awesome.
being said, Red Dragon Cartel 9.0 and John Davis Jinx 8.75.
How about that?
Wow, a couple solid albums this week, brother.
Hmm.
All
Big
right.
fan.
I think we're going to go ahead and get ready for next week's albums. What do
We
you
sure
want to
are.
do? What do you want to do or give me for next week?
Well, I tell you what, I stumbled onto this band. They have been on a huge, heavy rotation for me. Um, I was listening to the latest Dictators album because again, that thing's on a constant rotation for me as well. And as I was listening through Spotify, this band came on, and I was like, "Oh, well, what's this?" So I started nosing around, and they're very similar to the Dictators as far as I haven't found a bad fucking album yet. I haven't found one fucking bad album yet. So I'm going to give you so far one of my favorite albums by them. The band is called the Bell Rays, Bellrays, all one word. And the album title is called Black Lightning. Whew. Fucking fire.
Okay. Sounds like you have something planned for me. I look forward to this. I think it's time I have something planned for you.
Yeah, Ryan.
But I have to take a look because I am still torn at which album I want to give you. And they've only got like two or three. One's a demo album or an album of some demos. But it's so hard because there's just two albums. You know, it's kind of like with the Power Trip shit. I had a hard time deciding which one I wanted to give you, man. And the fact that these guys just announced they're going to be doing the first show in like, I think it's like 23 years, 33 years maybe. I'm giving you an Acid Bath album.
I knew that was coming.
I was going to give it to you last week, but the talk of Jake E. Lee really refreshed my memory on that Red Dragon Cartel album. And I remember going, damn, it was so good. I want to dump that on you real quick before I forget. So I am going to give you, God, man, it's against my better judgment, but I really like this album. I love both albums, man. God bless it. It's so hard because I want to give you the first. I want to give you the first album when the kite string pops because it's just they're so good. Anyways, but I'm going to give you the second album because I honestly think you're gonna listen to this album and then go back and listen to the first album.
Okay.
Acid Bath, Pagan Terrorism Tactics.
Okay.
Please make sure you got access to it because
I just did.
Something's a little tricky.
I already got it.
Yeah. So
sweet.
Yeah, going to be a great week next week. A punk album and New Orleans sludge. That's going to be a good episode.
Oh,
and let me tell you something, dude. I honestly think you're going to dig these dudes because you're going to get some clean vocals and you're going to get some fucking mean vocals, dude. I think you're going to love these dudes. And I know Scott's tried to turn you on to them, and I know I've dumped them onto you, but now
we're making it official. You
gotta listen. I gotta know what you think of these guys, man.
Hell yeah.
All right, brother. With that being said, for all you folks watching, we'd love to catch you here at YouTube. We will always have the episodes up available at YouTube as long as we can. We'll get everything loaded up to Spotify and all your other podcast streaming services. I mean, we're only, 3 or 4 episodes in?
Something like that.
Yep. It's Monday night. I'll upload this Tuesday night. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for just any of you that take the time to come in and watch the show.
Yeah.
Thank all of our special guests that decide to come on and hang out. If you are someone we've reviewed, feel free to reach out. We'd love to have you on the show. With that being said, Bruce, you got anything to say to close us out?
Oh, I think I do. You know, sometimes I'm a bag of broken glass. What am I supposed to do with that? I've been walking out by the fires just to walk around. I've been walking about by the wire just to talking loud. And that's what I'm going to do all through next week. Waiting on next week's episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tone.
I'm Bruce.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
See y'all.